In this edition of Daily Trail Markers, the first Democratic presidential primary of the 2020 election is right around the corner on Tuesday. New Hampshire voters will cast their ballots. The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows Senator Bernie Sanders narrowly leading the field, with former Mayor Pete Buttigieg close behind. Sanders has 29% of support from New Hampshire voters, while Buttigieg has 25%. That polling was completed before last Friday's presidential debate, when the majority of New Hampshire voters were still undecided. CBS News 2020 campaign reporter Nicole Scganga joins me now from New Hampshire in Manchester. Nicole, how many New Hampshire voters are still undecided, and what can this mean for tomorrow's primary?
Well, according to the latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll released on Sunday, only 38% of likely Democratic voters tell us that they have their mind made up. Now, that means two things. That means a lot of voters are still making decisions as we speak right now. And I spoke with a voter earlier this morning who told me she would be deciding between Senator Elizabeth Warren and former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg in the polling booth. She was going to go with her gut at that final moment. It also means that campaigns increasingly are inserting persuasion into their Get Out the Vote GOTV efforts. And what that means is that they're not just identifying their voters and bringing them out to the polls, but they're also going to be actively trying to persuade and sway voters to their side of the fence up until the moment the polls close on Tuesday night.
So Sanders, we saw, has a slight lead there. Does he have a particular strategy for staying ahead in New Hampshire? And do you see anything coming from Pete Buttigieg trying to catch up?
Well, keep in mind that Senator Bernie Sanders won the New Hampshire primary by over 22 points back in 2016. Now, of course, that was a totally different race. He had one competitor, Secretary Hillary Clinton, but he had a huge leg up going into this primary cycle, including a database of thousands of volunteers and supporters right here in New Hampshire, and he has been putting that to work. That means that just on Saturday, the Sanders campaign said they knocked on 150,000 doors, breaking all of their records back in 2016. And that's really how they're trying to organize in this state, going to the areas they know will turn out for the senator, places along the west like Sullivan, Cheshire, and Grafton County, and also heading into some of those college campuses with younger voters who are in support of Senator Sanders' progressive ideas. Now, meanwhile, Mayor Pete Buttigieg has been trying to get a leg up on Sanders by criticizing his Medicare for All proposal. He said earlier this morning at a campaign rally here in New Hampshire, quote, "I think we all agree that the wealthy and corporations need to pay their fair share. I have a harder time agreeing with the idea of raising taxes on the middle class." Again, poking Senator Sanders, who has said on our own airwaves on CBS News to Norah O'Donnell that he's not quite sure how much his proposal, Medicare for All, will cost voters.
Well, let's also talk about Amy Klobuchar. We're seeing several polls that have shown that she has a surge that's come out of Friday's debate. What is it about her that is now resonating with New Hampshire voters?
That's right. Not just one, but two Battleground Tracker polls had her jumping into third place just last night. And this is a post-debate bump. A lot of voters I speak with saw her on that debate stage on Friday and felt like she was the one to take on President Donald Trump. She has been making that exact pitch to voters all week long. She's also trying to appeal to independents here in New Hampshire. We know that independents represent 42% of the electorate, that those folks can choose either a Republican or a Democratic ballot and are likely to vote in the Democratic primary come Tuesday. And so Senator Amy Klobuchar has been trying to occupy that moderate lane. She oftentimes compares herself to two equally popular moderate senators here in New Hampshire, Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Senator Maggie Hassan. And so again, she has been barnstorming this state. I just came from one of her rallies up in Exeter. There was so much excitement in the room. You had people stomping their feet in the rafters. She had to tell them to stop because she was nervous that the town hall building might start shaking.
That is quite the image that you're painting for us, Nicole. And you've been there living in New Hampshire for more than 8 months now. It's all leading up to tomorrow. Do you think that there's any surprises still in store for us?
Well, it's always possible. New Hampshire is always ripe for a surprise. In addition to some of these top-tier contenders, we have folks who have been here for months campaigning only in the Granite State, skipping over Iowa. Candidates such as Colorado Senator Michael Bennet, former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. And so certainly one of those three could spring up. Andrew Yang, who went to high school here and frequently visited New Hampshire, both over the summer into the winter, could see a breakout moment here. Otherwise, those four might have to reconsider what their next moves are heading into South Carolina and Nevada. Another surprise we could see, up until Iowa, former Vice President Joe Biden was very strong here in New Hampshire, consistently in the polls. He is now telling voters that he feels he might take a hit here, saying that he's being outcompeted by neighboring senators, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. But if he faces a loss against a lawmaker from Indiana, former mayor of South Bend Pete Buttigieg, and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, that could be a harder argument to make.
Absolutely. Nicole Scganga, thank you so much.
Thank you.